Wolfpack. What's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf from RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your Week 16, the semifinals, the big dance. We have made it, ladies and gentlemen, to your semifinals, baby. Let's go. If you're here tuned in, congratulations. You got to be in there in at least one or two leagues, or you just like the sound of my obnoxious voice, in which case, thank you as well. Much appreciated. But I am, of course, the Wolf of RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. And I am here to help carry you, help bring you those titles, give you all my favorite plays, looking at some fantasy points against, looking at my tiers and rankings, which, of course, none of them are set in stone. And certainly this week, with COVID up all over the place right now, we could be looking at an entirely different set of rankings by the time we meet on Sunday, or even tomorrow night, right? 7 p.m. with the truth. As you guys always know, our Thursday night football kickoff. So we'll do some sit starts there. We'll hit some sit starts at the end of this as well. Whatever you got, please get your questions on in as you enter here. That thumbs up button does help us continue to get out to more people and really does mean the world. So thank you guys so much again for being here, for trusting me, at least as some sort of your insight as you prepare for your semifinals matchup. Best of luck, Wolfpack. We're going to dive right in, but ultimately first, let me pull in one of the most crucial notes. We already knew Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, both on the COVID-19 list early this week. Now, because it was so early, they do have a chance to potentially make it back for Sunday. They were both vaccinated. So long as they are asymptomatic and continue to test negative, they could be out there based on the new COVID-19 protocols. And I'm still trying to make some sense of, because it seems highly inconsistent and all over the place. But either way, they both have shots to play. Ekeler technically would as well, but he was just officially placed on the list today, which does give a little more doubt of whether or not he's going to be available. And what a juicy spot he would be missing. Houston, one of the worst teams against the run, giving up the sixth most overall fantasy points to backs, giving up the most rushing yards on the ground on the season with nearly 126 yards per game. A beautiful spot for whoever's back there. And that would presumably be Justin Jackson, who did see the vast majority of touches behind Austin Ekeler this last week. In fact, scoring nearly 11 fantasy points because of it, seeing all that work. He would be in line for probably, I'd say, 65-ish% of the touches. Maybe that's a little generous. I just think he is by far the clear-cut better back. He was looking very explosive this last week. He out-touched Josh Kelly 14-7. So as we said, 2/3 of the work went to Justin Jackson behind Ekeler this last week. I imagine that would look like a 20-touch to 12-touch type of split should we get Ekeler ruled out, maybe even more. Now, that seems generous given that they would almost assuredly ride Justin Herbert without Ekeler, right? But again, this is against Houston. They're not going to need to blow the doors off here. They're just going to need to pound that team into submission, and it is so easy to do. They are much more Houston generous to running backs than they are the passing games. So I imagine this would become a 15 to 20 carry spot for Justin Jackson, and he would be in a smash play spot, would be a top 20 running back ahead of Saquon Barkley. Right now, I do have my rankings as if Ekeler's in. He's my number 2 running back. Would be one of the top plays in all of fantasy, regardless of position if he's in. But if he is out, I would have Justin Jackson ahead of Saquon Barkley, right behind Miles Sanders, Sony Michel probably ahead of him, despite all the work we just saw Sony get. Jackson would be that much of a smash play, in my opinion, against the Houston Texans. He now becomes, given so many waivers are still up in the air for tonight, my number 4 waiver wire pick behind only Ronald Jones, Gabe Davis, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you need a running back more than a wide receiver, then jump him right behind only Ronald Jones, number 2 on the list. So love him. The one note, the one concern is Josh Kelly did see more goal line action, 2 carries inside the 10 compared to none for Justin Jackson this last week. Yet, we've also seen Jackson get 9 red zone handoffs on the season. 4 were inside the 10 before this last week. Could certainly see some meaningful work. So keep Justin Jackson highly on the radar. Let us know, if Ekeler's out, who would you go between these guys? Keep me posted. I'll hit all those questions as we get in there. But certainly some of the biggest news of the day. Now let's get on in. Let me bring in my rankings here, add them to the stream. Again, if you're just joining us, that thumbs up button does continue to help us grow, get out to more people, would be so greatly appreciated. Let's talk about some QBs. Josh Allen at number 1, not too worried about this tough matchup. Sure, the Pats, your bottom 4 for signal callers in terms of a matchup, but I think the division on the line, This game, I think, is going to be much more of a shootout than the last time. Weather was the biggest factor of all. Actually, the second fewest points allowed to quarterbacks are the Pats now after last week. Yes, it's a tough spot for Josh Allen. Still, I don't think I can have him anywhere but number one. Look at the numbers this guy's putting out when it is not a absolute downpour. 29, 12, 36, and 12, and that 12 being the that downpour game we're alluding to. The QB1 in over half of his most recent games, top three, similarly, in over half. Just a solid, very solid play, despite a tougher matchup. Still love him, plus 2 ECR, plus 4 ECR on Matthew Stafford. Sure, it was a dud against Seattle 16, but still top 12 quarterback, something he's been in all of the last 4 weeks, as you can see, 23, 24, 23. I think we're getting right back into that 24, 25-ish range against the Minnesota team that is bad against everything, including signal callers, the third most points. I love that they have shootout upside on the other side of the ball. And Rodgers, as you can see, my top three, I'm higher on all of the top three than I am all three of these guys. Aaron Rodgers, though, nobody's cooking quite like him with 7 touchdowns across his last 2 games, 34, 26, 30, 24. Whew, those are some sexy numbers. Cleveland, nothing special against any positions, including the pass. Love, you got to have a great feeling about Rodgers. Herbert, I'm a little lower on here. And granted, without Austin Ekeler, maybe they do lean on him more, but I also don't know that they need this guy against Houston. They don't have to rely on him to do a whole ton, even if Eckler's out. So, yeah, he could put up 30 and just throw 5 touchdowns and just absolutely smother this team. Certainly a possibility. My guess is they just pound these running backs, bury them into submission, and they don't even need it. Kyler Murray, a little bit concerning without DeAndre Hopkins putting up 14 against the Lions. Are you kidding me? Indy, certainly a better defense than the Lions are. Granted, if you're going to beat Indy, it is through the pass and not on the ground. They are much more generous to quarterbacks than they are running backs. But even still, definitely have to be much more concerned with Murray than you might be should Hopkins be out there, and certainly coming off this dud last week. Mahomes against Pittsburgh, I'm minus 4 ECR, not because I don't really like Mahomes, but more so, what is his weapons going to be? Coming off a 31-point day, I mean, he has crushed the Raiders in back-to-back weeks. Then the Chargers the last week, beautiful performance. But if there's no Kelsey, if there's no Tyreek, who is he throwing to? McCole Hardman, Byron Pringle, Josh Gordon? Pure shit is what he's throwing to. So that has to be a concern for a guy that, yes, again, a huge week last week, 20 points the week before that. But leading into that game, QB 22, 17, 22, 26, 19, like only 3 QB1 games across his last 9. Still betting on a guy with no weapons, that'd be a concern for Pat Mahomes. Do love Jalen Hurts. In fact, if and when those guys get ruled out, hopefully not when, because I really need Travis Kelce this week. But should they be ruled out, Jalen Hurts would probably get the bump ahead of him. Even on a shitty passing performance, look at that. 29 points, QB3, looked like garbage, was getting negative points through a quarter, and still comes up with 29. That's Konami upside. The definition of it, right? Unbelievable player for fantasy in that sense. Giants, awful. 15th most allowed to quarterbacks, but also top 5 in points allowed to running backs, which is where Hurts is going to do his damage. Anyways, love that play this week. He has the most QB1 finishes of anyone this year. 11 of his 13 starts have been a QB1 performance. Just very, how can you not believe in that, right? At least as a fantasy quarterback. And then Brady, minus 1 ECR, just depleted weaponry. The Panthers suck, but they suck now so bad that they're getting pounded on. Nearly 30 attempts per game across your last 6. Over 30 attempts per game, rather, allowed across their last 6. So keep that in mind. Indeed, with Tom Brady, just a depleted weapons cabinet. Still could go out and do that. It's Tom Brady, right? But concerning. So those are my QB1s, my high-end QB1s. These are like your remaining starters, like low-end QB1s, high-end number 2s, in my opinion. With Joe Burrow leading off at 9, Baltimore is very shaky in the secondary all year. No one's given up more 20 and 40-yard pass plays. Enter Jamar Chase. Enter Joe Burrow. This team should bomb them all over the field. We just saw Rodgers go for 3 touchdowns. I could totally see Burrow doing the same in a crucial divisional matchup. Love that guy. And we got Lamar Jackson over here. If he plays, that's where I would have him slotted in. Again, a crucial divisional matchup. Sure, as you can see, 16, 13, 19. We're not going to count that one against him. He was hurt. But duds across his last 3. It's still Lamar. Nobody has that type of rushing upside week to week other than Jalen Hurts at this point, right? So I love Lamar if he plays. And if Huntley's, the starter, he'd have to rank right around here too as a top 12 guy. So just count that as like your Ravens quarterback, right? Whoever it is would be top 10, top 11 or so for me. Cousins against the Rams, not an easy matchup by any means, but I think looks a little more threatening than it actually is. The Rams are giving up the 8th fewest, so, a tougher matchup, sure. But I think this game shoots out. I think Cousins at his best in these types of matchups, fantasy-wise at least, where they'll be chasing some points. So I really like the Rams to bomb them and Cousins to need to do some cleanup damage. Taysom Hill, awful, 9 points last week, QB 26, but remember, leading into that 25 and 26 points, Miami is a good defense, so definitely a concern there. But, a little bit lower. You can see 2 spots below ECR. Feels risky given that they've really tightened up as a front 7 here, but you can play him. Dak Prescott, 4 below ECR, and for good reason here. 5, 25, 12, 12, 11 fantasy points across his last 5. He's now the QB7 since week 11. QB 27, rather. Sorry. Correction. QB 27 in fantasy points since the last 5 weeks. Craziness. Awfulness. Averaging below 11 fantasy points per game. Washington is the most points allowed to quarterbacks. Like, get right spot, sure. If I don't have to trust it, I certainly don't want to. Russell Wilson, what's left to say? 5 fantasy points last night. No Tyler Lockett. That will obviously help to have a great deep threat against a team that's giving up a ton of deep threat points. But still, I would have a hard time putting Russell out there. This happens every year. He screws us every year. And now you're in your QB2 range. If you're going this low, go for the rushing upside of Fields against a team giving up the second most points to backs. He should have a field day running all over this team, Justin Fields. He's averaging over 75 yards per game across his last 8 in terms of rushing yards. Has a good connection with Mooney rolling right now against a team that's willing to give up deep plays all the time. I like Fields the most of these streamers. Garoppolo, definitely a pass funnel defense for Tennessee, the second fewest points allowed to running backs, but the fourth or fifth most points to QB. So good spot for Garoppolo, but just low upside, in my opinion. You look at Derek Carr, Tua, Tannehill, just all gross, unsexy. If Goff gets cleared from COVID-19, I would love him as a potential streamer this week. And like I said, I think this Patriots game could shoot out, so I don't hate going to Mac Jones either. That's my quarterbacks, folks. Let me know if you have any specific QB questions. I will, of course, get to them all as we wrap up here our rankings. Now moving on to running backs. Not much to say other than Taylor. What else is there to say? Over 170 yards 4 separate times this season. No one else. There's only 2 other times the back has done that other than Taylor. Craziness. Guy's a monster. You don't need me to sing his praises anymore. The clear-cut number 1 overall pick in 2022, which those rankings are up there on RoadStreetJournal.com. Released my 2022 rankings, folks. So go check those out if you're bored. The one night without football, it seems like the entire year, the entire last week. So go check out that big board. 2022 rankings are up there, folks. Give it a look. Austin Ekeler, should he play against Houston? The most rushing yards allowed on the ground would be the rushing yards allowed on the ground. I did that like once an episode. I don't know why. It's fucking moronic. Austin Ekeler, though, the team that's most generous on the ground, he would have a great day against Houston. Should he be in? Would threaten Jonathan Taylor as the overall high score, but still not a guarantee to play anymore. So maybe Dalvin Cook coming off 31 touches, not the most points, 9 points and only 10 points in half, but 35 point upside against Pittsburgh. Just it's all you need to see. Alvin Kamara against Miami, bottom 5 matchup for the guy, but just catches the ball so much. 4 points last time out. That was a concern. Ingram was more involved than I'd like to see. So I actually might bump him below James Robinson. I'm already +3 ECR coming off one of his top days in recent memory. 16 points was the running back for last week. I think we could easily see that repeat finish against a Jets team giving up by far, as we've said time and time again on this show, the most points to running backs by over a touchdown. He's a smash play. He's going to see, we just saw over, 95% of the carries and work go to him as they were all last year. And now he's going to get that in the best matchup possible. Sign me right up. I'm above him ahead of Kamara, maybe in this range. That's how elite of a play James Robinson will be. Cordell Patterson, what a dud last week. 3 points, running back 55. And just these last few weeks, 11, 13, just getting shoved and jammed up the middle, not being spaced out, not getting used as a receiver that allowed those huge explosive plays. Still, you look here, really only 2 just absolute duds across since week 1. Look at all these points. Guy's a stud. He's still a top 10 running back on the season, still a top 10 running back in a incredible matchup. Detroit giving up the 3rd most points to backs. You got to love it. even ahead of Nick Chubb. Chubb did get there, 16 points, running back 7, but it didn't look pretty. And against the Packers, I am nervous he could get game flowed. They were putting in Dearness and Demetric Felton in pass catching situations. They're just so hesitant to use Chubb as a true every down back. It's a concern. And I imagine this game flows in the favor of Green Bay, and I don't love that for Chubb. I do love David Montgomery. Second most points allowed is Seattle, and nobody is even touching the field. I think he was over 90% of the snaps this week, over 95% of the actual work with 6 targets, 18 rush attempts. Was the running back 9 last week. Gets an even better. Or running back 26 with only 9 points, but still, we've seen him blow up in stretch runs before. I think we're getting that again. Najee Harris, just volume, but the volume productivity has not been there. 4 points, 5 points, 13, 24 against Minnesota. That was nice, but still very concerning what he's been doing. So those are still the volume's so elite. He has to be in your elite tier. I am higher on Zeke, as you guys can see. I think he's been looking a little more spry by the week. 15 points, running back 10 last week. Washington, not a tough matchup. I could see them game flowing, pounding the rock on that team all day long. So we could see that. Javonte Williams, top 5 matchup against the Raiders, the most points allowed in the last month to running backs, and still killing it in terms of generosity. So number 4 on the season right now. Williams, yes, he's in an even split with Gordon, but he has seen all but 2 targets across his last 3 games in that backfield. So the definition of the pass catching guy with 40% of the carries, love it in this matchup. Should find the end zone. Gibson, found the end zone last time. They still seem like they have to vulture him at least once a game, which blows. But with McKissick on the IR, will still be a volume monster. Last time against Dallas, though, he got swallowed. Yeah, 3 points. I think I should be a little bit more concerned than I have him ranked here. Probably will be bumping him down. I'm already -2 ECR. Think I am a little bit too high even still. Mixon, though, +13. That's because they're not adjusting for the fact that he's practicing, that he's healthy. Baltimore, a better run D than they are pass D, but not a good run D by any means. As we mentioned, the Panthers are giving up the 14th most carries. The 4th most, rather, across their last 5 games, averaging well over 30 carries per game. We know the Bucs are the 2nd highest pass rate in neutral situations, but they also just lost Godwin and maybe Evans for this game. So you can imagine they'll be a bit run heavier this week against a Carolina team that even without those guys, they shouldn't have a problem beating that team into submission. They're terrible. So I imagine Jones will be seeing about 15 to 20 carries, averaged 8 yards a pop against a very good Saints defense, the fewest points allowed to running backs. So keep that in mind. Jones looking that good against them. Shouldn't have any problem against Carolina. And meanwhile, you got the Steelers averaging 5.6 yards per carry against them on the season. They are pathetic. They are abysmal. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, yeah, I get it. It's a tough situation to get a true grasp on. As soon as he scores 2 touchdowns as the running back 10, he goes for 8 measly points. But against Pittsburgh, I think he's going to roll and have himself a monster day, especially if all these other weapons are out and they're going to have to lean on the run a bit more. Could be a great day for Clydesdale Edwards-Helaire. Then you got Aaron Jones, Cleveland. I've been low on him the last few weeks. And yes, 2 weeks ago, he burned me with 2 touchdowns with running back 9. But as you can see, 11, 12. I guess he did catch another touchdown last week. So, I think I'm a little bit too negative on him. I'm going to be bumping him up the more I think about it. So Aaron Jones, yeah, -4 ECR as of now, but probably going to get a bump up. Cleveland, bottom 10 matchup, but that's fine. They're gonna have a lead. Jones, Rodgers loves targeting him. Jacobs, I guess I'm below ECR. What's there to say? 8, 11. These were nice too. 18, 20, seeing a ton of pass game work, but only 4 against Cleveland, 4 targets. Ew. He's so damn good against his face, but a tough matchup against Denver. Don't love it. Melvin Gordon against the Raiders, end zone, great end zone bet. He didn't score last week. Kind of a dud with only 7 points, but seeing 50% plus of the carries in all these games, he should be fine. And then Connor, huge snap decrease, huge touch total decrease with Chase Edmonds back, and huge fantasy production decrease, even against Detroit, one of the easiest possible matchups you could ask for, only 8 points. Big hit to his value, and it's against an Indy team that's very good against the run. I'd be nervous about Connor, as you can see, -2 ECR. Now you're moving into your last running back 2s, definite flex plays. Love Sanders coming off a 100-yard day, 131 to be exact. 16 points, running back 8 last time out without scoring a touchdown. He's now up to 150 touches without scoring a touchdown. Nobody has 70 touches. Nobody with 70 or more touches has done that without a score. It's insane. It sucks. But the guy's still putting up points either way. And against the Giants team, as we already said, that is bottom 5 against running backs. You got to put him in there. You have to. Near even split in terms of snaps versus with Jordan Howard, rather. But still, he's in there. Not even close to even snaps. Sony Michel dominating 18 carries. Now gets Minnesota, who is giving up 10th most points to running backs. Very generous on the ground. Very generous to the air to running backs, too. So Sony, who's taking a stranglehold in that backfield, I think he's definitely a good bet to find the end zone to rip off about 100 yards or so. He's been killing it at that back. And Darrell Henderson, Sony ran more routes, which is the role that a lot of us envisioned Henderson coming back into. No, it was all Sony. He has a stranglehold here for your fantasy playoffs and one of the best offenses behind one of the best schemes. You got to keep riding that hand, in my opinion. Barkley, certainly lower on, have been for the last month, and it really hasn't failed me. 9, 7, 10, 17, 7. One running back 11 game outside your top 30 and over half his last game. Just bad since coming back. Just a bad team. It's not really him. But Booker's looking as explosive, if not more explosive, and seeing, about 40% of the work. Don't love to see it at all. Donta Foreman, though, 2 of his last 3, 100 yards, 108, 109. Running back 25, 14, and 11. These last few, double-digit points in 3 straight. Solid spot, middle of the pack defense against San Fran. They are flying around a bit more, but I do think Foreman, especially if A.J. Brown comes and relieves a little pressure, I'm into it. Probably in my lineups. Penny, pretty big dud after going 137-2 to come out with 39, 5 fantasy points. Got vultured by DJ Dallas when he just had to go to the locker. I don't know. Like we always say with Penny, as soon as you trust the motherfucker, he goes and shits on your chest. As the old saying goes, as we've always said about him. Fuck. I'd have a hard time getting back to the well. I might even prefer Devin Singletary, who has seen 87% of the snaps across the last 2 games, saw 90% of the snaps last week, 92 to be exact, 95% of the carries. He seems to have taken over as an every down back, and New England is certainly more susceptible to the run than the pass, giving up 18 most points to running backs. I think I'm going to bump him up after 16 and 12 points in his last 2. Very viable flex. Ahead of Jeff Wilson, in my opinion. Yet Jeff Wilson, the running back 3 last week, 19 points, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Finally looking more explosive, too. I just don't want to trust him against a Tennessee team giving up the second fewest points. Nobody's had a big game against them for like 5 straight weeks now. I don't trust Jeff Wilson to break that cycle by any means, even with Eli Mitchell ruled out. Carter, I think, is in a bounce back spot, though. The Jags, bad. You don't need me to spell that out for you. Did see about 60% of the snaps. Only had 3 points to show for it, but the underlying stats tell a different picture than what we actually saw production-wise. Miami's a very tough run D. So I do think Michael Carter is in play, as is Freeman, who's seen the 6th most carries among running backs these last few weeks. A.J. Dillon getting in the end zone last week. That backfield's one of the rare ones where it can actually work between 2 guys. Still, it's tough to always rely on that. Only 7 carries compared to 13 for Jones last week. It seems like as we get down the stretch, they're starting to ride their horse, their main guy, a little bit more. So Dillon, just a fringe flex play, as you can see, at running back 29. And then we're into if you gotta, okay, but let's not. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, assuming one is, if Harris is back in and it's looking like, the fact that he was on the fringe questionable list, I imagine he plays. And if it goes back to 55% of the carries went to Harris, 45% went to Ramondre, 18% of the targets went to Bolden, 3-headed nightmare. Could one find the end zone? Absolutely. We saw Harris pound this team just a couple weeks ago, this Buffalo team. Good luck, though, figuring out which one's going to be what drive the touchdown's going to happen on, and if it even happens. I'm nervous about that. Chase Edmonds did come into a decent snap share, but only 1 target. Very, very upsetting. 53 rush yards. Very gross day for him, but involved, and they might want him to get that snap up a little bit more, especially if Indy. The concern is that Detroit was beating them the whole time, and if Edmonds, quote unquote, the pass catching back, had nothing to show for the game flow there. I did love Duke's day. 22 carries, second highest total for a Miami back. 25 fantasy points was the second highest as well. Was the running back 1 last week. Holy shit. But New Orleans is that tough against the run. So I'd be very, very concerned. They've already talked about this being an open competition this week. So yeah, go use your picks if you want on the waiver wire. I would prefer, as I talked about, Justin Jackson, he'll slide right into this top 20 range if Ekeler is ultimately ruled out. I don't want to trust Williams with Swift also practicing, and either way, Reynolds might just have that job on lock. Not going there, especially if freaking Goff is out and it's like Blau at QB. Ugh. Pollard, though, what did he do last week? I know Zeke had far more points, but he did put up 10, 15, 14, 10. I'm a little bit too low on Pollard, it looks like. So I have some adjustments to make on Pollard. I'm bumping up Singletary a little bit. I'm going to bump up Aaron Jones a little bit the more and more I research here. And then, as we said, Justin Jackson could shoot up this list towards my top 20 if Ekeler gets officially ruled out. Now he's been placed on the COVID list. Howard, maybe you get a touchdown out of a bad Giants team. Maybe you get that. But otherwise, hopefully you're not looking this low. I don't trust Henderson at all. I'm going to be bumping him below some of these guys as well. So there'll be some changes you'll see at the running back position. Folks, as the crowd continues to grow, awesome. Thank you so much. Love to see you guys here. If you could please consider giving us a thumbs up, helping us get out to more people. It would be so appreciated. Thank you again, Wolfpack, for being here. It is just so appreciated. As you can see running on that bottom line, if you've already seen it, we will be live at Old Planners for all you local folks tuned in right now. If you're in the Boston area, Beverly is where it is located, Old Planners Brewing. Come on down. Come have a craft beer with your boy, the Wolf. We'll have Red Zone on one TV, the Pats Bills on the other. Going to be an awesome time. 11 a.m. Sit-start show kicks off. So come on down, have an early beer, get your questions answered, and have some week semifinals fun, baby. Let's do it. Cooper Kupp, the number one receiver, and it's not really close on the season. I mean, he's got 80 more points than the next closest guy in Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is 80 points separate him and like the 25th receiver. That's how much of an edge Cooper Kupp is between 1 and 2 right now in the year. So as such, also facing the Minnesota Vikings, who give up the most points to wide receivers. I mean, what else is there to say? The guy is a monster in the best possible matchup. He could single-handedly win you your title. Probably 40 points coming this week. Jeez. Cleveland can't stop Adams. Nobody can stop Adams. Coming off like a 13-point half PPR day, I get it. Floor game, but floor game is 13, 29, 27, 14. Yep. You're going to get 15 at minimum. You're probably going to get 25. Like, let's be real. He's so unstoppable. Jefferson's ranked as if Thielen's out, but even if he's in, maybe that draws a little more Jalen Ramsey away and could be a better matchup. Just a stud, even off not a great week. In fact, I think I need to bump Deebo Samuel. The second most points allowed are the Titans, and this is the wide receiver 2 right now in fantasy football. I said Tyreek Hill earlier. I meant Deebo Samuel and Cooper Kupp. Tyreek Hill at jeopardy of missing this game, but should he play? Pittsburgh has no one that can run with him. He'll be a top guy after 12 catch day. 13 targets. Monster. Wide receiver 2 last week. Always has that type of upside. Keenan Allen should have no problem destroying whatever pathetic corner the Texans put on him. But again, I think this game could revolve around the run more so than the pass. Should Ekeler be ruled out, though, that's a nice 18 to 25 weekly percent target share that Allen would probably inherit a decent amount of. So keep him high up on your radar. Number 6 receiver. You don't need me to tell you much more. Deontay Johnson, a little bit of a dud last week. 7 points, but when his 7's a dud, like that's not that bad. 13, 27, 14. Only 5 targets was the real surprise here, where he's been double digits in all but 3 other games. So I think he returns, especially if they're going to need to throw, which they will against the Chiefs, unless all these injuries continue to mount for them, the COVID list rather. Diggs, I'm somehow +2. I get that New England, it's a tough matchup, but he caught a touchdown, right, against them last time. Oh, I guess only 451 now. But that weather, it was horrendous. I think Diggs is fine. Like, keep him on in there. The Bears giving up the, 5th most points now? 2 wide receivers, 6th. So, especially specializing in giving up deep plays, I think Lockett will be welcome back with some nice deep balls there. CeeDee Lamb just so inconsistent for me. +3 on Lockett, but a little bit lower on CeeDee Lamb. 3, 16, 11, 8. Just Dak's inconsistencies have really hindered him. So I'm a little concerned on him, but not concerned with Antonio Brown, the wide receiver 4 in fantasy points per game. Now no Mike Evans or Godwin. Definitely no Godwin, likely no Evans. Top 12, easy wide receiver 1. If he's sitting there on your waiver wires, like, I know Ronald Jones is kind of seems like the clear number 1, but Brown would be that guy. Go get him if he's out there. Cooks is now on the COVID list. Good Lord. Like, as we go live, Cooks gets placed on there. Coming off, I think he was the wide receiver 1 last week. Wide receiver 3 with 26. Beautiful game from Cooks, though. Chargers, decent defense. But you just saw what Tyreek Hill did to him. Not that Cooks is Tyreek Hill, but they're not unbeatable. And that was especially with Derwin James likely to miss some time. Could have a field day. We've already talked about T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Ravens got the most 20 and 40-yard plays. Both those guys specialize in those types of routes and receptions. So I think Higgins, Chase, as you can see, a little bit lower on Chase, though, -7 ECR on the guy. So that's because, I'm a little bit scorned the 0.8 day. But against Baltimore, he had 200 yards last time. 30 points was his best effort of the season. And now they're down Marlon Humphrey's, like even worse secondary. I'm probably a little too low on Chase the more I think about it. But I do love Jalen Waddle returning. You got to love Renfro. I know he had a little bit of a dud game with only 5 points, but without Waller, otherwise 14, 14, 6, 18, 15, 22, top 14 wide receiver in all those weeks, other than that 6-point dud. So love him. Do love Patterson. Obviously I talked about him a running back. He's a top 10 running back. He's of course going to be a top 20 receiver. I think AJ Brown walks right back into a nice spot start. The 49ers giving up the 11th most points, 2 wide receivers, 12th most rather. And they have no one else to throw to. Like Julio's likely out. Even if he plays, he's useless anyways. So they've sorely missed AJ Brown. I could see him walking right back into a monster Thursday night football game. Especially if the 49ers put up the points, third most points in the NFL right now. If they need to chase some points, they're going to need to do AJ Brown solid there. We just saw Amon-Ra St. Brown put up 30 points against the Cardinals. You don't think Michael Pittman can do that? Yeah, tied against New England, but I still think big day could be in store. This is where Thielen would rank touchdown machine. Should he be in? Christian Kirk, 12 targets, 9 receptions on over 60 routes, the most run, most points, most targets, most yards, everything. Led the Cardinals in everything without DeAndre Hopkins. Wide receiver 5 last week. Indy has given up the 3rd most passing touchdowns on the season. Definitely a good spot for Christian Kirk. We just mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown. 12, and 11 targets these last 3 weeks. Wide receiver 5, wide receiver 25, and wide receiver 6 in that span with over 20 fantasy points. And that was PPR, was spouting out those stats. Top 7 in half PPR. And now against Atlanta, a pathetic defense. The only risk here. He'll get bumped up, I think, a decent amount if we know Goff's in, whereas he'll probably fall a decent amount if Goff is out, because who knows who is behind Goff, and why would we ever want to trust whatever creature that might be. Gage, though, the second most owned wide receiver on fantasy football, the FFPC rosters, behind only Cooper Kupp. You can see it, though. 15, 17, 8, 19. No way you can bench this guy. In fact, too low on Gage, even though I'm +4. Detroit, easy matchup, and top 12 receiver in 3 of his last 4. No brainer. Get Gage slammed on in there. Certainly ahead of McLaurin, boom or bust, busting more often than he's booming by a margin. Do like Darnell Mooney. I know he almost had a touchdown. This stat line, top 25, would have been that much bigger. Don't forget wide receiver 4, 4, and 14 before. 2 duds and really tough matchups, bad game situations. I think Darnell Mooney has a great spot. 14 targets for Marquise Brown. What do you do? 4 freaking points on him. 9.5 PPR, I guess. Wide receiver 24. Okay, maybe I'm a little low on him, but I don't know. Cincinnati, if it's a shootout, if they put up the points I think they will, then yeah, I could see Brown getting there, but Andrews is the real monster here. Ayuk's been helped out with Eli Mitchell out of the lineup. Didn't do a ton, though, last week, did he? Yeah, 4. Ugh. Just so boom or bust. And that was against Atlanta, too. As we mentioned, Tennessee, the 2nd most points allowed, but it's Debo, it's Kittle, it's no one else for me. I like Wilson somewhat, as we mentioned, but still sketchy. I think I might bump Parker ahead of Ayuk. Just even with Waddle back, has been a steady target magnet. 15 points last week, wide receiver 13, very solid there. Just a good play even with Waddle back. New Orleans giving up the 4th most points. Is it? 7th most points. Good spot, though. Even after shutting out Brady, I'm not scared of that defense. Gabe Davis, though, how do I do like Odell Beckham against the most points allowed to receivers. Yes, he had that 1-point dub, but as you can see, 17, 10, 17, top 11 receiver in 2 of those 3 games. I think he can rebound nicely, but I would have a hard time benching Gabriel Davis. 10, 13, and 23. Now, as his usage, the more and more he gets used, the better and better he is. Shocker. But the guy makes plays all up and down the field, week in and week out. Every time he's used, he catches a touchdown. Forced 4 touchdowns the last 3 games. 7 touchdowns as a rookie. I mean, I don't know why he wasn't on the field more often, but I'm glad it's finally corrected. Got like Van Jefferson. Mike Williams, always routinely lower on. But as you can see, 43, 45, 49, 18 was his best. And that was without Keenan Allen. No thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Cooper, also a complete and utter dud. Dak's downfall has also led to a Cooper complete and utter downfall. 5, 7, 5, 14, 2. Oh, even worse than Mike Williams. Yes, not number 3 in terms of receiver points allowed against Washington. He's out of my lineup unless I have nothing else. And similar to DK Metcalf, 3 studs who should be better. Look at this: 4, 5, 2, 9, 6, 8 without Lockett. Why should 30 is the best game you could have without Lockett? Come on now. Horrible from DK Metcalf. I'm always lower on DJ Moore too, as you guys know, with that pathetic quarterback play. He's also not practicing yet. And then we're getting into like your flex, your fringe guys. We'll hit a few of them really quick. I don't know why Jerry Jeudy's even in there. He shouldn't be at all. So he'll get bumped down low. What do you have? A goose egg last week? 0? Oh, how horrendous. Drew Lock doesn't make me feel any better about him either. Gallup has actually been ahead of Amari Cooper in targets and production, 12, 13, 9. Even 5 points last week was more than what Cooper did. So maybe that needs to get flipped. I do like Claypool in a game where they'll need some explosive plays, but that concerning usage, only 2 points last time out. Did see 10 targets go AJ Green's way, or 8 rather. There's 10 fantasy points in PPR is what I meant. But top 30 guy should see solid numbers here. I do like Landry in his return, assuming he's back. I'm not trusting Devonta Smith with my title on the line. I'd rather have a big boom play like MVS, maybe even like Alan Lazard instead. You can't trust him. He's had 2 20-point days across the season, and then otherwise, look at that, 8, 3, 3, 6. No. Out of my lineups, no doubt about it. I'd probably even rather go to Tyler Johnson as a streamer here, plus 15. Led the Bucs in receiving this last week, was the clear-cut guy. Yes, I know Antonio Brown likely to be that guy, as is Gronk, but third on the totem pole for Tom Brady is always viable here. So, and then again, Bourne on plus 21, that's more so because he's on the COVID list. But as you can see, 22, 7, 21, 8, was making plays all over the field last time out. Been a stud, really, for the Pats here. So if he's in, you got to love him. Myers, the engine, the target leader, 12 targets last time out. Consistently paces the team in targets. Doesn't always have a high upside with allergies to the end zone, but still a good play. If you're down here, Osborne's completely contingent on Thielen. Zay Jones has been seeing a sneaky, ultimate Hail Mary, but 9 and 7 across his last couple games. Wide receiver 23 last week. Could do worse with a desperation streamer here, but I already mentioned Tyler Johnson. He's probably my favorite, as is Lazard, especially if MBS misses some time. Crowder not practicing right now. Those are some names. And Treadwell, just toss his name out there. Bad Jet secondary, giving up nearly 9 yards per catch. He has had 8, 9, and 9. Not great, but top 26 receiver last week. There's a floor here, which is crazy to say with Treadwell, but certainly better than Visca if you're going to anyone and against that bad Jets team. Let's move us on to tight ends. We will then get to quickly covering your defense and kickers, and then I will hit as many questions as I can in the last 15 minutes or so. But I got to get out of here by 6:15. So George Kittle, number 1 tight end. That's assuming Kelsey's out. I bumped him down just because of the COVID list here. But, Kelsey, Andrews has been just on a ridiculous tear. 23 and 31 points, tight end 2, back-to-back weeks, 11 targets, 11 catches, 10 catches, double-digit catches back-to-back weeks. My good God. Whew. But yeah, it's crazy the edge you can get from one of these 4 tight ends. Gronk only being in that conversation because of the injuries all around him should get doused against Carolina. Really his worst game of the year coming against New Orleans. Otherwise, he's been so damn steady. Goddard is kind of earning himself into that conversation. As you can see, 17 points, 135 yards, 7 catches, just barely missing the end zone. Tight end 2 and 4 across his last few, 26, 17. Yeah, this guy's killing it. I think he deserves. This might be more so like the top 3, Gronk and Goddard in their own tier, and then these other guys. But I do love Knox. Tougher matchup against New England, but still as good as anybody to find the end zone at the tight end position. Gesicki, the opposite. Lots of targets, not a lot of end zone volume for the guy. I do love what Ertz did. Second leading receiver for the Cardinals in his first game without Hopkins. Only Kirk had more. 11 targets, 6 catches, 74, 10 points, top 7 guy. Just good to see him and Goddard. I might even draw that that next tier here. In fact, I'd probably rather have Ertz than Gesicki coming into this week. But you got to keep in mind what Hunter Henry did with 77 yards and 2 touchdowns, tight end 3 last week. More heavily used than just his typical red zone role. 8 catches, 8 targets, 6 catches. It was a beast. Absolute beast. And Pitt's just athletic freak, but actually seeing it get done. 7, 9, 10, top 10 tight end in back-to-back weeks. So definitely viable. Certainly against Detroit, could find the end zone. Those are the type of spots you actually want to use the guy. And then Schultz rounds out my last of the potentially usable tight ends. But Dak struggles. He did have 17 points. He seems to be that red zone consistent point, 14-7, 1-17. But he's the last tight end I really want to trust. And then you're getting into the streamer range where I do like Cole Kmet. He's seen 25% of the targets these last 4 weeks with 9-11 in 2 of his last 4 games, 10 and 11 points in those games. And now he gets Seattle giving up the 6th most points. Volume bet. So one of my favorite streams there. If not him, I do like Gerald Everett a lot, who's gone 10, 5, 12, -1, 10 and 8. Most of those games viable options though. And Chicago, middle of the pack against the position. I do like Uzomah, who against Baltimore was given the 3rd most points to the position. Last time out, saw 23 points. So the tight end won that week. He's really fizzled out these last few, but still that type of upside exists. So if you're getting into this range anyways, if you need Kelsey replacement plan and you don't have anything in this top 11 range, Uzomah, Kmet, Everett, Uzomah would probably be my favorite plays. You don't hate Cook against a Houston team giving up the 7th most points, but depends on Ekeler's status and what's going on there. I'm not a Higbee guy. I've always been lower on the guys. You can see -4 ECR, but why are people Higbee guys? 6, 7, 4, 8, 10, 1, 7, 2 tight end 1 games across his last 7. I'm not banking on that. If he even plays, he might be on the COVID list. Ingram gets the number 1 tight end matchup, but against Philly last time, what do you do? 5 points. Yeah, don't get sucked into the matchup. This guy sucks. Moreau, volume bet with Waller out. 9 targets, 7 catches, 10 points. That was solid. Not a bad day. You don't have to go this low. Alberto, the alphabet, has been actually doing solid, 13-7. That's why Fant is 12 instead of top 7, which it could be without Alberto nibbling his cheese, but annoying situation nonetheless. Real quickly, kickers and defenses. Your elite option, the Cowboys, just so opportunistic. You have 31 turnovers on the year. Lead the NFL alongside the Colts, who I also am +5 ECR. I mean, Detroit defense had a good day against Arizona. You don't think the Colts can? They're just one of the most underrated units. Look at that. 14-10-2, 18-4, 14 again. Great points. I hope they get dropped. I'd love to play them. I think I'm too low on them, honestly, at 9, even already +5 ECR. One of the best options you can have. Definitely jamming into my DraftKings on Saturday lineups. But you got to love the Bucs against the bad Carolina team. I think the Chiefs, great play. They've been playing awesome ball as of late. Yes, I know Thursday against the Chargers on the road, they didn't do much. But look at that, 11-7, 15-17, 24. They're going to be in Big Ben's face all day. So love them. In terms of who's out there as streamers, I like the Eagles and Chargers a lot. Look at the quarterbacks. Look at the matchups. Giants and then Davis Mills without Brandon Cooks potentially. Oh, yeah, all day. Then you got Nick Mullins for the great Packers secondary like that. I don't have any problem with the Pats against Buffalo, even after the dud against the Texans. This defense is a lot better than they showed. They're at home. I like them. Don't hate the Saints, though, after shutting out Tom Brady. What are they going to do against Tua? Love that play. And if you're looking for some more desperation streamers, like the Broncos out there in a lot of leagues against the Raiders team that gives up a ton of sacks and pressures, I'm not that down on the Dolphins. 9+ points in, I think, 5 straight now. 9, 23, 5, 18, 17. So one kind of dud. Shockingly against the Jets of all teams, but overall, good, solid defense. So I don't think you have to cut them. You can get one of these other guys, okay, but that's where I lean. Hopefully you don't have to get this low, but the Jags do get the Jets, and they're coming off, coming off -3. So maybe we don't consider them. Go to the Raiders, go to the Bengals instead. Raiders getting Drew Lock should see some turnovers for sure. Kickers, Tucker, Matt Gay, Nick Folks, Zerline, and Prater always around your top 5. Although I don't know I'm going to keep Prater in there. They again, he didn't have a big day against Detroit. Now he gets a tougher NDD. I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous. I'd probably bump him below as I look at this list, like Koo against Detroit, Joseph, Carlson, all those guys. I would probably prefer. Even my man Bass, maybe I would go to ahead of Prater. Bass hasn't been anything special, but McPherson, Booten, Bombs, 21, 13, 5, 12, 13. I think he needs to be bumped up higher. I'm already +1 on him, but even above Prater, my opinion. We're not going to waste any more time on kickers and defenses. I want to make sure I have at least 10 to 15 minutes to dedicate to you folks and your questions. So let me pull this on out and let us now hit the Mailbag, folks. And as we hit it, that thumbs up button does mean the world. Would be so greatly appreciated as we help to get us out to more people. And again, you can find all this content at rowstreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. William G. Ooh, the fantasy gods are punishing you with Ekeler, Hill, Woods, Elijah Moore. But I think, yes, it sucks. But guess what? Everybody's kind of, even the best teams right now have probably lost a stud at one point or another so far this year, Willie G. So the only thing you got to do is stop bitching and moaning and get your fucking gear together and let's get yourself a solid lineup. I lost, Kelsey and Evans this next coming week, most likely. Next man up, Gabe Davis. Stashed him last week. You just go, you ride your guys, you show your team, you're never quitting on them, Will. Come on. My boy, what's up, Giuseppe? Great to see you, brother. Bent over and pumped rotten by Kelsey and Cup. Yeah, nothing you could do there. Pumped rotten. Is that how they call it? That's what they call it over there in Scotland. Always next year, brother. I'm so glad you still popped in to say hello, Frazier. Best of luck. Yeah, there is next year. There's nothing you can do. And Cooper Kupp is just that guy that's like, if you have him, you're probably winning your league this year. And I don't have him, so I only have him in one league. I'm a little bit nervous, but unreal. Eliminated one league, but made the playoffs in my other. There we go, David. Let's get you that win in the other one, baby. Half the league's not bad. What up, Mitch? Great to see you, brother. Wolfpack legends out there. Yeah. Blew it on Penny, but man, coming off 130 and 2 TDs wish you saved on Rojo. How could you keep it for a hypothetical handcuff? You know what I mean? Go after him. Go try to get him. But, Ronald Jones fumbled the ball away. Maybe Keyshawn Vaughn's the play, right? So you never know. I've started pushing. Matthew didn't respond well. All righty. Best of luck, Jeremiah. Sorry to hear about the complications, but my man, cheers to you and your wife. Blessings. Best of luck. Thank you for popping in to say hello, even in a crazy time like that. Let us know how everything goes, man. Send those picks on in when it happens. Gibson, Miles Sanders, Rojo, Dillon. Half-PPR. Giuseppe, my boy. I'm going to go Rojo Gibson here. Miles Sanders really close there, though. Blue doors, yes. That's what I like to hear, even with your call of Dearness over Pollard. Yeah, hey, tough call there. Paul, Reynolds, Swift, if back, have a chance at Rojo. I'd go Rojo over all of them. Swift, though, if he's back, you got to play against Atlanta. No doubt about it. Moore or OBJ. Sorry, I missed that one. OBJ, most points allowed by the Vikings. RBs are Ekeler, Gibson, Sanders, Mitchell, Dillon. Should I pick up St. Brown or Justin Jackson? So you need the receiver, so you got to go for St. Brown there. You're not going to even start Justin Jackson. I guess you have Ekeler, but you'd still probably go Gibson and Sanders over him anyways. So, yeah, you got to go for the receiver there. Start Michael Carter, Jeff Wilson. I prefer by a hair. I mean, it's tough to bench Jeff Wilson coming off a 100-yard day and breaking. The Jets still suck. So I'm going to go Jeff Wilson there. Tough call. 26 and 27, actually, in my ranking. So as close as can be. Yeah, I agree with you. Leaning St. Brown. You're welcome, Giuseppe. Thank you for being here, as always. Do you think Folk is still a must-start? Oh, yeah, always. Nicky Folk. Happy to see you have Allen on top. I need him and Diggs. Oh, yeah. I think that stack could absolutely do some damage, Mitch. Knowing your injuries, I know you do need it. Dylan, what's going on? Hey, Wolf, think Lamar is going to play? I have no clue. No leaning. I would be stashing Huntley, though. And either one of them is a top 12 option if the other sits. Drop Niners D for Chiefs. I'd rather have Chiefs. Yep, Will, I would. I think you got to go Brady if those are your other options, Robert. Maybe Huntley, but yeah, I go Brady over him, no doubt. Even with the depleted core, you got to. Play Sanders over Edmonds and Connor. I don't hate it, Mitch. I lean Connor, given how much of a study's been even when Edmonds is on the field. But, they're neck and neck. I have Sanders at 20 and Connor 19. So if that's how your gut's leaning, you're totally justifiable. I would go Connor myself. Renfro, Green, or Parker. I'm going Renfro despite the dud. He's been a top 14 receiver in all but 2 weeks of his last 7. Like, he's been very, very solid. And not a horrible spot. Denver's a good defense, but he can get it open at will. I think that was the anomaly last week. Dak's been stinking. I'm off of him. I get this whole prime time and Sunday night. Like, I've gotten that text message from a bunch of people, but not for me. The birds are coming for him, though, Mike Clay. They sure are. I'm off Dak if I can be, though. Sup, Wolf? What up, Johnny Lau? Mixon or Jones? Probably Aaron Jones, a safer bet with the injury going on there. Denny, my man, great to see you. Tomorrow night, got to choose between Wilson and Foreman. I'm going Foreman. I'm with you there, especially with how good exactly what you say, the run D there. What up, Pat? Seeing a bunch of new people here. If you haven't already hit that thumbs up button, great. But even more so, help us get that 2K goal. We just got a couple more weeks to hit it, Wolfpack. Please consider subscribing if you've enjoyed our content. It'd mean the world to keep getting these numbers up. What up, Pat, though? Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Running Wishbone, seriously. It's Jones and Miles Sanders. There you go. You got to do it. Foreman and Mixon. I'm going to go Mixon, Pat, assuming he's playing. Picked up Atlanta defense. Can't play the Pats this week. Yeah, it's tough against Buffalo. But I'd rather have the Eagles, just a better defense. Tough to trust Atlanta as bad as they are. You know, it really depends who the quarterback is as well for the Lions. If it's Goff, I don't want to trust the Atlanta defense at all. Ben, I heard Danny Heggs texted us last night. I am so pumped for you. Winning in 3 of your 4 leagues. Love to hear it. Huge roller coaster of emotion. 4 down stop. Getting you that win. Awesome stuff. What a roller coaster. I better see you at Old Planners to celebrate that type of ride, my man. Can't wait to watch wide receiver 1 Cup. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful wide receiver core. 2 of my top 3 right there, Robert. Thielen could be back indeed. Thielen definitely over McLaurin because how could you trust? I don't care about primetime. Too many people make a big deal about that. No, I'm going Thielen if he's in. Lost guy, we need a flex for Benny. Of this flex, I would probably go for Jackson because, you know, if Eckler's out, he's far and away if he's in, like, on par with the rest of these options. So that's where I'm leaning. Ran Everett after losing Hawk, got Waller. Yeah, Everett's solid. But I'm really liking Kmet this week. With the volume he's seeing, a good matchup against Seattle. That's where I lean. But Everett, you can continue to go with, indeed. For all your help, good health in the playoffs, baby. I appreciate that. Thank you for Powder for being here all the time. I as of right now, likely to be without Evans and Travis Kelce, so not the best of health, but man, we'll see. Damn, you late. You are late, Will. We're early as well, though. Christmas stuff to do tonight. Date night. Awesome stuff. So I had to go early. So you're not late. I'm just early. So thank you so much for coming. Definitely tune into that replay. Comment away, Will, on the video if you have any specific set starts, and I would be happy to answer them in hindsight here. Start Sony or Jeff Wilson, or start Penny or Jeff Wilson. I'm leaning Penny even despite the dud. That Tennessee run D is no Willie G. So that's where I'm leaning. Sit one for my man, Mohammed. Great to see you. Mixon, CEH, Michelle. I'd probably sit Michelle there, despite the good vibes of last week, out targeting all that stuff. I'm can't bench CEH against a bad Pittsburgh run D right now. And Mixon, it's Mixon. It's your first rounder. You know, you keep him in there unless he's really banged up. What up, Will? You're the best man. Hope I can win my first. Oh, I hope so, Will. I didn't know you're going for your first here, brother. Love to hear it. Appreciate your kind words so much. Appreciate you showing up night and time, every single night, Will. So appreciate it. It's not unnoticed, brother. AJ Brown over guys like DK. Yeah, I'm not trusting DK at all right now. How could you? Over Mike Williams. Yep. AJ Brown over both of them, Troy. Absolutely. Justin Jackson. I talked about this earlier, Mike, so feel free to rewind it and hear the full breakdown, but I had him at like running back 20 if Eckler's out. Right behind Sanders, right ahead of Sony Michel in my rankings is where he would fall, given that Houston, the most rushing yards allowed in the league. He would have a great smash spot, 14 touches, over 7 touches for Josh Kelly last game. Seen meaningful goal line work, even though Kelly saw more last time out. He's not immune to the end zone. So top 20 play if he is out. All righty, Wolfpack. I'm out of here. Going to see the Christmas Carol tonight on a trolley. Great stuff. Indeed. Nice seafood dinner at Turner's ahead of time for those of you local. And speaking of locals, if you're here on Sunday, come on down to Old Planners Brewing. It's day after Christmas. Keep those good times rolling, Wolfpack. Would love to see you. Would love to meet some of you that I might not have met so far. I will be live for the Sit Start show there. We'll still be live on broadcasting, of course, 11 a.m. We'll just be broadcasting from the brewery. You guys will see us there. So thanks again so much for those of you that are here live, all those great questions. On your way out, if you haven't already hit that like button, and certainly if you haven't smashed the sub button, you like what you heard, would be so appreciated. Thanks again, Wolfpack, for being here. In a world full of fantasy sheep, guys, be that wolf. Until next time, till tomorrow, Thursday night kickoff, baby. Later, Wolfpack, 7 p.m. tomorrow. Be there. 6:45.